all these people like jumping in. It's 9 o'clock sharp. All these timely realtors. I love it.
Very German of all of you.
Very timely. Okay, it's 9:01. We have a full agenda today, 2 incredible speakers. So like, let's kick this thing off. You ready to go, Adriana, with the assist? All right, you guys, you ready to go? All right, you guys, welcome to our May. Oh my gosh, it's May already. Our May XPN State of the Industry. We have a change today. Big change. Adriana, next slide.
Big change, small change. Big change, big change.
Small change. For those of you guys who are familiar with 2020, big change, small change, you might know we have notice we have a new host lineup today. For those of you who are frequent State of the Industry participants, of course, I am Leslie Hilbert, the General Manager of the Experience Brokerage Network, which of course encompasses 4 amazing Keller Williams market centers here in the state of Oregon and 600 amazing agents. But today, we also have Chris Suarez, which I know you are all here for, and he will be coming up next. But we have a new co-host. So Jordan, introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Jordan. I'm the Assistant Team Leader of Sunset Corridor and Capital City.
So why do we have the change? For those of you who are wondering where the amazing Katie Hardman is, not to worry, she hasn't gone anywhere, but we have the very special announcement. So that we have a very special welcome. So on May 7th, we welcomed a family member to the world. So welcome Miss Elliot Rose Hardman, also known as Elliot, or Ellie. And before you start bombarding the chat and my text message and calls, she a healthy baby girl, 6 pounds, 3 ounces, and 19.25 inches. There you go for all of the baby enthusiasts out there who want all of the stats. Katie is doing and family are doing well. And until she comes back from maternity leave, Jordan will be my co-host on your SOI. So Jordan, why is it that we introduce ourselves every single month?
Well, we introduce ourselves every single month because we welcome new family members. And since our last State of the Industry, we've actually welcomed 12 new family members to our network. So if you see them, give them a high five, give them a bump with the elbow. If you're a hugger, give them a hug. But welcome them when you see them.
I love it. We love welcoming new family members and even making new family members. Now, that's not the only change to our State of the Industry this month. Because of schedules and making sure we have can fit all of the value in today, we are changing up our agenda. So we typically transition to our important announcements, celebrations, some important upcoming events. However, we wanted to make sure we had time to fit in all the valuable content. So stay tuned for that information still to come. You don't want to miss out on some of that valuable information. However, we are going to transition to our very first speaker of today's SOI. We have 2 that you don't want to miss. So first up, the much anticipated, of course, our OP, our operating partner, founder of Place, but probably most important, Chris, also agent, real estate broker with XPN, and master of all things economics and industry. So Chris, what do you got for us today?
Thanks for the intro. Good to see so many of you as I scroll through those that were willing enough to turn on their camera. It's always nice to see faces as opposed to read names on the screen. So I won't call anybody out, but if you're in a place, if you're dressed, let's put it that way. If you're dressed, turn on your camera. If you're not, don't turn it on. But there we go. We got a few more pop-ups on the camera. I'm happy to be here. And you're right, Leslie, like, you know, as you intro me, I think the only thing that people need to know is I'm a real estate agent. Like I'm doing what everybody else is doing, especially right now as sort of it's all hands on deck, and it's calling buyers and calling sellers. I'm on the phone. I'm I was in 2 sellers' houses yesterday. I'll be in 2 buyer consults today. It's just doing what we need to do to help people into homes and navigate the sort of the market and the industry that we find ourselves in. Today, we're gonna talk about the market. And I'm going to share my screen. We're going to talk a little bit sort of local. But the interesting thing about our network is local means something different to a lot of us, because some of us are in Southern Oregon, some of us are in mid-Willamette Valley, some of us are in Portland, some of us are actually doing most of our business across the river in Washington, and that's all fine. And so it's important for us to sort of go into the micro markets that we're in, and even the neighborhoods within those markets. Today, we're going to sort of take a sort of bigger picture approach and look at what's going on across the country and try to gain some insights as to what that means for us, what conversations we should be having, what we should be talking about with our buyers and sellers, and how to navigate sort of the consultative approach that all of us hopefully are using. Maybe just big picture. We'll look at just a Case-Shiller reading. Most of us look at the Case-Shiller report that comes out every month. We're always a couple months behind, but if we look at the seasonally adjusted annual price appreciation rate for the last Case-Shiller report that came out, we're at about a 3.1% appreciation rate. We should know that number. When people say, gosh, what do you think is going to happen? What's going on with the market? Should I wait? I had a consult last night where they're like, well, tell me, like, should we wait till next year? Because we can. The reality is the seasonally adjusted increase in home price or appreciation in home price, we're sitting at about 3.1%. We're going to go and talk a little bit about what economists think we're going to see over the course of the next year. Spoiler alert, it's right in line with what we're seeing over the last 12 months. We're probably going to be right around 3%. So I guess that's their call. Like, do you pay 3% more for the home that you're going to eventually buy, or do you buy it at a 3% discount today? So that's my number, right? When we look at big picture, where are we? We're at about a 3.1% appreciation rate over the course of the last year. This is just the only thing we're going to look at from our local market, just purely MLS. And this is our MLS. So this encompasses everything that our MLS covers. It's a broad look. And the only thing I want us to sort of be mindful of here, you can look at all the numbers, and I hope you do. But the one thing that I'm going to take away from this, and I'm going to look at last month, and then this month, and then next month, and the month after that, is I'm going to look at new listings and how it compared to the month before and how it compared to the month a year ago. So we see some seasonality, new listings show up in March 2025, right? Or April 2025 over March. We saw 24% more listings show up from a month ago. Like, why? Well, people are coming on the market for spring, right? Like, that's your work. You're pushing and you're getting those houses listed. We expect to see that bump. But when we look at April this year versus April last year, which takes seasonality out of it, takes sort of time frame out of it, what happened last year at this time versus this year, we see about an 8.5% increase in new listings. Which, if the market was going, which is good news, right? We want to see that. If the market was stable and we were sort of doing what we were doing last year, we would also see an 8% increase in pendings, right? Like 8% increase in new listings, buyers are there, they want it, market's going to stay the same as it was last year in our mind, or better. But how do pending sales look in the month? Well, we saw an 8.5% increase in listings, but we saw a 2.5% decrease in pendings. So what does that lead to? An increase in months of inventory, right? It leads to an increase in inventory that has not sort of been eaten up or bought. And so that's a good fact to know about in our markets. You should know, right? If you're in Eugene, look at the Eugene market report. If you're in Portland, look at the Portland market report. If you're in Roseburg, or like, regardless of where you are, look at, like, our MLS sort of delivers out their report, or your MLS should look at new listings, percentage increase, new pendings, percentage increase. Now, if you look at closed, what do you see? March, April over March, a 16% increase in closed sales. So, like, there's definitely seasonality. People are moving, people are active. And in April, we bumped up again, but we have seen a little bit of slowing in pendings. And that's just the reality we need to talk about. We should have that conversation with our sellers that we're all ready to go. We should have that conversation with our buyers, meaning there's more inventory for them to look at. They should compete a little bit less. I know what some of you are thinking, like my buyers aren't competing any less, because I've been in multiple offer situations as well. But as a whole, we are seeing sort of new listings pop up, not as many pending. So keep that in mind. Let's watch that over the coming months. Okay, now I'm going to share with you, like I normally do if we do these sessions, just some data points from our economists over at Goldman Sachs. Obviously, are a partner with us, so we get a little bit of data that the majority of the world is not getting. That's a win for us here at the Experience Brokerage Network. So let's look at what I received just about a week or, about 10 days, like 7 or 8 days ago, in terms of their forecast. So you see right up at the top, you don't have to read all these numbers. I'm going to highlight and talk about what you need to know, but they forecast that home prices will appreciate about 3.2% in 2025. Now, who is they? They is sort of a collection of economists, some that work and are solely working at Goldman Sachs, some of the greatest real estate economists in the world. And they actually have a group of economists that they reach out to third parties as well. They collectively come together and they issue their forecast. Now, that forecast changes month by month by month. Last month, interestingly enough, it was 3.4%. This month, they're forecasting over the course of the year, it'll be at 3.2%. Why do we say that, or why did it change? Well, it's changed based on financing. It's changed on inventory. It's based on buyer and consumer confidence. It's changed on pricing to build homes, because keep in mind, some of what moves pricing up is actually new construction. So a lot of that goes into that target number. And I will say historically, they're not more than a few tenths of a percentage off in their estimation. Like historically, that number has been pretty solid. So for me, I use it. For me, when someone says, hey, what's your opinion? That is my opinion. Like that is the number that I'm delivering to buyers and sellers as they ask me. So as a seller, is it worth sticking around an extra year for 3%? I don't know. Like maybe it is, but in most cases it's not, right? For a buyer, is it worth waiting? Probably not. So again, this is just, and we're going to send these slides out, so don't worry about it. But this gives you an idea of housing starts, single family, multifamily, what's going on, the Case-Shiller National Home Price, quarter 1 of 2025, 3.3, quarter 2 of 2025, 3.6. You'll see what they expect in quarter 4 and quarter 3. So we probably will see a fairly strong quarter 3 this year in terms of movement and competition. That's good for us to know. But let's look at some of the sort of the metrics that we say drive real estate activity and real estate economics. The first one is pending home sales. Now, again, I just shared you like two sort of up-to-date information on RMLS with that sort of decrease in pendings. In March, we had seen an increase in pending home sales nationally, right? So keep in mind when you say, well, gosh, what's going to happen with interest rates and what's going to happen with, Fed decisions? They're not looking at your backyard. I'm sorry. They're looking at national numbers. So these numbers will shape what happens in the industry as a whole, and those numbers will affect us as well, or those decisions will affect us. But home sales or pending home sales increased in March. You'll see that sort of dark blue line, pending home sales index, sort of jumping up, and then existing home sales. Now, I've talked about this before, but how should I read this graph? You saw that closed sales were up considerably in April. We saw pendings were not up as considerably in April. So when you look at your pending number, right, there's a gap between pending and close, and pending will be the close of tomorrow. So like we're gonna see some downward pressure on closed sales in 30 days. Like expect that number. That's not going to be great for the media to talk about closed sales are down by 3% or 6% or 9%, but be ready to hear that. Your sellers are going to hear that, your buyers are going to hear that. So you need to have that messaging prepared. Here's the weekly pending home sales. And really, like this is actually pulled from Redfin data. So I'm sharing it. I don't love to share it, but I'm going to share it regardless. And it's just showing sort of the cycles of pending home sales. Sort of what is our What we really should be at is that red line, and then you see the blue currently. So we saw a peak in pending sales. Some of us saw just a really, really busy sort of, February leading into March. Like March got crazy, and all of a sudden April then felt a little bit slow. Well, look at your data. Like you're feeling that and seeing that for sure. Here's another one. This is median sales price. And this is good for us as people say, gosh, I think I'm going to hold off. I'm pretty sure, like, with what's going on economically, with what's going on in the market, with what's going on with who knows what's going on with tariffs, like I'm gonna wait this out. Well, the median home sale is not slowing. Like you look at seasonally adjusted median home sale on the left-hand side, year over year over year, right? We once in a while have these little blips, but is buying a home a great investment? I mean, look at 2019 to 2025. Like look at 2021, look at 2022. Like it doesn't matter when you bought your home, for the most part, if you're not selling it a year later and you can sort of weather a 6-month blip or a 9-month downward pressure because of either political reasons or economic reasons, you're gonna be fine. And this shows a buyer that the sooner you get into the market, the better. I met with a buyer last night at one of our listings, and he said, I had thought about buying in 2016. I looked around and I just didn't buy. And I thought to myself, oh my God, 9 years later, right? 9 years later, he's looking at 835 as an entry point for his home. Do you know what he would have paid for that same house? And I told him that, what he would have paid for that same house in 2016? Probably 470. No joke, 470, right? I know that because I was selling that same product in that year, 470. So I said, here's the deal. Like, then he asked me, do you think I should wait? And I said, do you wish you hadn't waited in 2016? Like, why is that even a question? And I asked that question. It's fair. Like, why is that even a question? Like, you already saw what waiting did. Don't get hung up on what's happening in the next 6 months. Get hung up on what you're going to do for the next 5 years. So you'll see this cumulative change in median sales price since January 2024. I love that graph. I haven't seen them do this, but they're like, okay, like where are we cumulatively since the beginning of the year of January 2024 to today? And again, like that's a short period of time to look back on of, I guarantee you have buyers in your database that were floating around in January 2024, and you showed houses to in February and March of 2024. And what's the cumulative median home price since January 2024? You allowed someone to make a 7% mistake of not buying. 7%. So are they buying a $500,000 home? What's 7% of 500,000? You guys are realtors, you know percentages real well. Like that's a lot of money. It's a $35,000 swing in what they're spending on that home. That $500,000 home is probably 535, 545, and find me a 545 house. You're going to be in multiple offers anyway. This is the next chart that I think is valuable for us. Again, just one more data point that shows we're at a 3.1% appreciation rate in the month of February. We saw that in March. We saw that in April. So honestly, if you need a number, we're at a 3.2% appreciation rate over the course of the next 12 months, which actually goes to the 7% since January 2024, doesn't it? Like we saw about a 4% appreciation rate last year. We're seeing 3% this year. There's your 7% year over year. This is not necessarily great news, although it's gotten better based on some pricing across the country. This is the U.S. Housing Affordability Index. If there's one number that drives a lot of decisions, it's going to be this one. How is affordability across the country? You'd think that that should eventually drive interest rates, sort of getting a little bit downward pressure, but we're seeing some affordability increases show up, and that's just based on median sales price across the country. Some of that is because, unlike our markets, they do have some entry-level housing being built, and so that moves this affordability index. We could throw this graph out around here, in my opinion, because affordability isn't getting better with a 7% interest rate or a 6.8% interest rate, and median prices continuing to go up. However, one thing I should not miss. What else drives affordability? It's income. It's income. And we're going to see in a minute what's happening with our incomes, and disposable income and household debt. And actually all signs point to positive sort of numbers in that arena. This makes your job hard. And I'm just here to tell the truth, not tell you what you want to hear. Like, the reality is rental affordability is superior to mortgage affordability. And so our biggest obstacle, and you'll see this in the homeownership rate, our biggest obstacle is sort of the younger generation living for today, because that's what they do. And now everybody could say, Chris, like, we know how old you are, because half of my waking hours, I feel, is spent trying to convince the younger generation that home ownership is the only path or the real path to wealth, and it's not, right? You know, Instagram reels. But rental affordability looks pretty darn good, right? By the way, I have a 17-year-old daughter, so I talk to her about, right, you know, home ownership as well. But rental affordability is just drastically better than you know, your housing affordability, your mortgage payment, when it looks at percentage of income. So I'm thinking about buying a home, and I like my I don't, but I'm assuming like I'm someone else. I like my fancy things, because if you know me, I don't like fancy things. But if you like fancy things and you're thinking about buying a home or renting, you're going to say, well, buying a home means I'm spending 33% of my income on a roof, versus I can get it for 22% of my income and spend 11% on handbags. Like, guess what people are choosing? They're choosing buying stuff over investing that extra 11% in real estate, sadly. Like, we just need to fix that problem. By the way, we as parents need to fix that problem when we're talking to our past clients. The sooner people get into real estate, the sooner they can make that monthly payment, affordable or not, they're going to be in a better spot for sure. Here's a supply of homes listed for sale. We'll see that increase. Look at that. Since 2024, this is the number of homes listed as in a snapshot of time in that month. We're back to almost 1.5 million homes listed across the country. By the way, we all love that. Like, I love waking up and seeing the hot sheets and having something to look at. I hate seeing nothing to look at, right? So I do love me some inventory. Like, it'd be great if we got to 1.5 million homes, 1.75 million homes on the market. It'll give a little bit of relief hey, listen, it'll give some of us a job. Like, we don't have anything to do because we have no houses to show all the buyers in our database. So the good news is, if you're watching hot sheets, we're definitely seeing increases in some hot, inventory even in our market. So let me tell you what you looked at. A minute ago, we're looking at like how many homes are on the market in the country. How many homes? This is months of inventory. So this now factors in, you know, how quickly are buyers buying, how long is our home sitting on the market, and you'll see month supply of single family homes, existing single family homes. We're about just over 4 months of inventory, which means what? We're still a seller's market. 5.5, 6 months of inventory is a stable market, means no one has an edge, which probably is the greatest market to be in, because everybody sort of feels like we're coming to the table and we're getting to the middle. No one feels completely taken advantage of, right? Everybody is on even playing field. No one has an advantage. Right now, like, sellers, it's home stadium for sellers existing. But look at new homes. Like, we're above 8 months of inventory for new construction. Now, the reason why I share that is because builders can't sit on inventory forever, because builders aren't using cash to build. They are using really tough financing. And so be mindful of that. If you're listing existing homes in a market where there's a lot of new construction, you need to advise your seller that you can give them a market price today, but you do not know what a builder is going to do with their inventory that's sitting tomorrow. And they may slash prices more than existing single family homes are slashing prices, because the equity conversation is different for builders. I'll give you a use case for this. I have a friend that moved to Forest Grove from the Dalles. You know, don't take this the wrong way, but anybody should move from the Dalles. So now we get the pleasure and gift of having to sell a house in the Dalles. And the reality is he would love to sell his house for 575, but when there's 11 new homes listed at 600 and his is a 1970s home that has been slightly updated, 575 probably isn't going to do it. Now he bought it for 575 when there was no new construction available. Well, a year and a half later, guess what popped up on the market? 11 new construction homes. So I'm having this conversation with him that 575 almost feels like enough differential between the new construction. But I can't tell you in 2 weeks when you're ready to go live that new construction won't be at 580 or 585 or 575. So we're going out to the market at 550 or 555. Why? Because the the new single family homes are driving pricing on the existing single family homes. And this is how we use data to inform a seller what decision to make about pricing. So if you have a buyer for the Dallas for 550, give me a call. All right, next one, home buyer sentiment. Home buyers, listen, you're always selling. You're always selling. Home buyer sentiment, like this is a real number. We would love to see this continue to go up, but we're actually seeing some downward pressure on home buyer sentiment. Why do you think that is? Well, we all have our opinions on why we see that is, but we're going to make this an apolitical discussion today. Like, it's just buyers are nervous about pricing and interest rates. They're nervous about uncertainty. When there's uncertainty in any market, the motivation to move or do anything goes down. Your job right now in your consultation is to remove uncertainty. It's to remove uncertainty. So we need to use language that removes uncertainty. We need to stop saying, well, no one really knows, or, there's no way to tell, we'll see what happens. Stop with that. We need to bring certainty. Here's what we should do. Here's what I am seeing. Here's what I believe will happen. You don't have to say, I know what will happen, because you don't, but here's what I believe is going to happen. Here's what I believe is the right decision. You need to use certainty in your language, both with sellers and buyers. And you know what they will do? They will follow your lead, because buyers and sellers need good leadership right now. And the home sentiment is driven by what do they hear? Uncertainty. They're reading uncertainty, they're listening to uncertainty, they're watching uncertainty, like everything is uncertain. So we need to watch that. And buyer sentiment is important to our business, right? Just like consumer, the confidence index is important to Fed decisions, buyer sentiment is important to decisions that happen in our industry. This one matters to us as well. Like, honestly, if we care about our industry, our career, our longevity, household formation is below the long-term trend. So you'll see that dark blue line is the 10-year moving average. We're sort of going up with household formation. How are households formed? Katie Hardman gifted us with future household formation this week with a new baby. So we do that because people get older and now they're moving out of their homes. People get married, people get divorced. There's lots of reasons why households are formed. I had my first 27 years later, I had well, this is going to get awkward. I had a not a couple, but a throuple. Is that a thing? There are 3 people that were sort of, I guess they weren't married because there's 3. But anyway, they all got into a fight, right? I'm not going to tell you which house it is, but they all got into a fight and we're like, Chris, we're selling our house and we all want our own. Well, like, thank you, because you just formed 3. I'm sorry for the 3 of you, but thank you because you formed 3 households. So 1 household became 3. It's enough said. It's enough said, but that was some interesting conversations. And we'd had an amazing listing presentation with 3. You think like dealing with 2 partners is difficult? 3, there's 3 opinions. But anyway, household formation is below. I told you I'm in the business. I have some stories. Household formation is below the long-term trend. And you'll see that. Like we want that to continue to go up. TMI. Moving on, US homeownership rate. It's not going up. And this is narrative, right? This is because rent is cheaper than mortgage. This is because the home for first-time buyers, like that range of 30 to 35, they want to be free. They don't want to be tied down. Like, they're just not seeing the value of homeownership. It is the secret to wealth building in this country. I'll share one of the things I'm proudest of is most of you know my personal assistant, Caitlin, and for a long time she was a renter, and we had constant conversations of like, buy a home, buy a home, buy a home, and you know what, the home that she bought may not be perfect, but you know what, she bought it now 2 years ago. I think it's about 2 years ago, and she probably has a year of salary and equity built in that home in 2 years. That changes people's family tree. It changes their wealth building. Do that for your clients. Like US homeownership rates should be going up. In a perfect world, right, we would hit 60, 69, 70% of Americans. There will always be renters, right? There's always going to be transition. By the way, some of you own rentals, so you need renters, and I get that. But the challenge right now is we should not be trending back towards 65% homeownership rate. For time, we're just going to do a little bit of the mortgage world. We have phenomenal partners at Envoy, and I'm going to tell you one thing about that. If you don't truly get into the strategy side of mortgage right now, or at least engage with your partner, I will tell you, I had probably 3 conversations in the last 24 hours where I felt like for me, like here in locally, I've used Mike Popino for years and years and years. Many of you know him, but the strategy side of lending options is incredibly important, right? Being able to buy before we sell. We have one person potentially using that program right now. To talk a little bit about, well, can you negotiate a 3-2-1 buy down? No, but could you negotiate a 2-1 buy down? Could you contribute some and get a seller? Like that is strategy. We should understand the value of having good partners in that arena and good programs in that arena. But here's the good news. Truly, like you can look at this data and know we are in good shape, and you should be bullish on real estate in general, because household debt to income ratios declined. Last year, it declined in the first quarter. We're waiting for that data. We're always a few quarters behind, but what does that mean? Like debt is staying stable. We're going to look at that in just a minute, but incomes continue to sort of begin to build. Now, not for everybody, but we're looking at the country as a whole. That number is a really, really good and healthy number for our overall economy. Look at serious delinquency rates, incredibly low. Where have they gone up? Credit cards, that's gone up, and that's semi-concerning. Autos, that's gone up, and that's semi-concerning. Both of those are wildly discretionary, right? I mean, they're not, because if you use your credit card, pay it off or stop using it. If you bought a car, do the right thing, make the payment. But the reality is, if we're looking at just our market, if we're the parent to the housing market, look at your mortgage and your HELOC loans. It's below 1% delinquency rate. That's amazing. And that's a 90+ delinquency rate. It's a really, really good sign for the real estate market. So for those really still waiting for a crash, it's not going to happen. Nominal personal income. This is disposable income per person, has continued, or per household, has continued to rise. And so again, that bodes well for, that is why affordability doesn't look worse than it could, because overall the economy has delivered income to the American family, and those incomes have gone up. And the last thing I'm going to share, and then I'm gonna turn it over to more important people, but it's real estate equity and stock market holdings. So you'll notice this is a massive opportunity for us. Because again, that light blue line, it's probably a little bit lower today than it was. But if you have not seen, or you haven't begun to have the conversation with people that taking out some of the massive wins that people have seen over the 2, 3, 4 years of run up in the market, taking out, and obviously we saw a decline, and then we saw leveling off. As things level off, people will begin to realize that, okay, like, let's not get greedy. Let's take some of those returns. Let's do some tax loss harvesting. Let's actually pay some capital gains and move that income now into a more stable asset. Well, guess who sells a more stable asset? Nobody other than you. You have the most stable asset in the world. Real estate or gold, I take real estate, right? So the reality is you will begin to see this household equity in the market, in that light blue line, begin to go down and the blue line begin to go up, it is your time to take advantage of that. So if you're not seeing that, if you're not talking to people about generating a down payment earlier or quicker because of taking some market gains, then we're just not using the data that we have to support that. So that's what I got, Leslie. Hopefully, my goal is that we've taken something from that data. We say, oh gosh, that gives me something to talk about with that buyer or that seller. I'm gonna have a slightly different buyer consult. I'm gonna have a slightly different listing consultation. When I show that home later this afternoon, I'm gonna use one of those points. I'm gonna tell you, like, you will build a reputation for knowing your industry, and people will refer you based on the value you deliver and the knowledge that you have. It is the only thing I'm good at. Like, I'm telling you, it is like, people are not hiring me for my personality, but they are hiring me for my interpretation of the data. I promise you that. Cool? All right, I am here for all of you. If you need me, you know where I am. You have my cell phone number. If you don't, I'm going to drop it in the chat again. Text me. If I offended you by something I said, you could text me too. I'm good for that. It just makes my skin thicker. But in the meantime, appreciate you all. And let's turn it back over to Leslie. Thanks, Leslie.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much, Chris. Okay, so much to appreciate and unpack there. If you had any doubt that he was in the trenches with you, now you know, like, the proof, right? Like, we talked strategy, we talked uncomfortable and awkward household formations, we talked like data, like truly some awesome nuggets. We talked big picture. Now, one of the things that I've been having lots of conversations with our agents about was, okay, that's a lot of big data. What about hyperlocal? So if you are on the call and you are still asking hyperlocal, stay tuned, because we are going to answer that question for you next, and where and how we find that data, and what is our resource, and who is the master of getting that information to us. So before we do that, Adriana, let's do our some wrap-ups and some announcements. So before we welcome our next presenter. So what do we got up next? Ooh, first of all, you guys, we want to say a huge thank you to everyone who participated in our fourth open house extravaganza. Thank you to the agents. Many of our agents out there did 2 or 3 open houses on that day. We had so many listings. We were actually in need of more hosts this year. It was our largest event ever. We had 6 market centers participate. 165 homes were held open that day. Based on our post-open house survey, the results are in, and here is what we found. On that day, we had an estimated 905 guests through our open house that day, which led to an estimated 165 leads or potential opportunities. And that resulted in, potential clients is what we're saying. And we tracked to 15 purchase contracts written due to the open houses written that day. Now, of course, what we didn't track was the future listing contracts or buyer rep agreements. So based on those 165 potential leads or clients, we are looking forward to seeing a lot more opportunity fall in. So congratulations to all of you for those results. And for those of you who are saying, I couldn't participate this time, how do I get involved next time? Mark your calendars, save the date. The next open house extravaganza statewide is already scheduled for Saturday, September 13th. We have already checked the calendars and did our best to make sure there's other big conflicting events, including the Oregon Ducks are not playing that weekend home games. So make sure that you mark your calendars for September 13th. So another wrap up, Jordan, we had something else incredible happen just last week. So tell us a little bit about our Red Day wrap up.
Yay! Thank you to everyone who participated in our Red Day. That is our worldwide day of giving back and giving where we live. We actually had about different service projects across the state. So we're super excited about that. And we have a little bit of a surprise for you guys as we do a wrap up video.
I feel like there should be music, Jordan.
I know. I was like,
Adriana, opportunity next time. Music. And this is a compilation of all of our events across the state.
there we go.
So we wanted to release that video to you guys here first, but we'll be sharing that out to everyone so that you can grab it, share it, and share all the love that thank you guys for those of you who participated and give where we live. So that's not all. We've got a couple of upcoming events that we want to make sure that you guys are aware of, and we've got the big things coming. Adriana, what do we got on the list for that? Oh. Okay, to have marked on your schedule, Chris referenced it today. We have an incredible partner with Envoy Mortgage, and they are the ones helping us through those essential strategies right now. I know Mike Popno's on the call today. Thank you, Mike. Shout out to him out of our Sunset Corridor location. But we have incredible LOs across the state. One of them is Chris Vettis, who is the master of all things VA. He is going to be presenting a very, very special class live in Sunset Corridor on May 20th. But we are going to be broadcasting this across the network virtually for those who are not able to join the live event. This is specifically targeted to those agents who want to learn more about serving those who have served our communities. And this is in preparation for those who want to learn more about the military relocation professional designation that will be here on June 5th that Chris Vettis will actually be leading for OAR. So this is kind of the preemptive class to learn more about serving our VA community and also learning more about what that designation would do and how you can be an agent that specializes in helping our veterans through navigate the purchase process. So make sure you mark your calendars for Tuesday, May 20th, both live in Sunset Corridor and virtually from anywhere in the state. So next we have, well, I'm coming to you guys live from Dallas, Texas today because I'm at Mega Leadership Camp, but you guys have the opportunity to join a Mega Agent Camp that is on in August 11th through 14th in San Antonio. New location this year. We're really excited. It's usually in Austin, Texas. So for those of you guys who miss Family Reunion or love Family Reunion and want to join the next big event, it will be in San Antonio. There is still time to reserve your tickets to join that event. You can use the QR code, or of course, we drop the registration in the chat box. If you are not sure what Mega Agent Camp is, or if it's right for you and your business, make sure you reach out to your local leadership team, and we will make sure we get you all the information on what is happening and the big speakers that they are announcing to be present at that big event. Now, with no further ado, I think that leads us to our next big speaker, right, Adriana? Okay. Now, this one is really cool and important because we are going to welcome kind of the guy that is the master of our local information. And Sean, I have to tell you that I am in mastermind rooms all the time, including right here in Dallas, Texas. And one of the conversations, we're having many conversations, one about the difficulty of pricing right now. How do we get through uncertainty of our clients and where are our agents finding hyper local accurate data that is up to date. And my question for like these other brokerage leaders is, well, don't you have Area Pro? And it's been a very cool experience. And I've been able to just, well, let me pull it up on my computer and let me show you what it can do and what our agents have so that they can present their information to their clients. So I'm super excited that you're here today. So I'm going to turn it over to you so that you can tell us a little bit more about Area Pro and how our agents can be utilizing this incredible product.
Thank you, Leslie. That's awesome. What a cool introduction. I appreciate that. And thanks for shouting us out there. We're still fairly new, so every mention we get means a lot to us. So thank you. This is great. I have a couple of really fun things to go over, and I suspect that we probably have a mixed audience on the call. I imagine. I mean, we rolled this out for your team. Gosh, what was it? 6 months ago or more? So I'm hoping that most of you are familiar with it now. I am going to do like kind of a 2-minute what is Area Pro just for those of you on the call that don't know. And then I'm going to do a plug because every one of you have access for free thanks to your brokerage, which is huge. This is not a cheap product. We're charging people $99 for a single user access, $149 for 2 people. It's not a cheap product to build and to maintain because we've got real-time data feeds coming from all the MLS, and your brokerage is providing that to y'all for free. And we're actually going to, Leslie, I didn't tell you about this, but we're going to roll out a feature too that we've kind of been, it's reserved for kind of the premium package, not our brokerage package, but we just thought, man, Chris and you all have been such great partners. We just want to turn that on. So we're going to do that today too by the end of this call. So some really fun things. But for those of you that have not yet heard of Area Pro, and actually while I'm talking, Katie or Leslie, if you don't mind posting in the chat who you want them to email if they don't have access yet, who's managing it on your side that can send them an invite during this call or after this call inside Area Pro. So if you'll post that way, that'll answer a lot of their questions. And we went and sent invites to all of you, and we've done it multiple times. And then I know when you're onboarding, you get exposure to it. So hopefully you have an invite somewhere in your email if you haven't done anything with it. If not, someone on the experience team can resend it. So, okay, so I'm going to share my screen and give the brief version of what is Area Pro. I am a licensed agent. I've been selling real estate since 2007. I started off with Remax, and in 2011 made the brilliant move to transfer over to KW, and my life has never been the same since, literally. So that's been an awesome thing. And then a couple years ago, I've always been all about data. Like the first day, I have a business degree, so I love numbers. I love the same kind of conversations Chris is talking about. And the first day I got access to our MLS, I found the export feature, and I just started dumping data like weekly. And so I started building the massive like Excel spreadsheet of our local data in Idaho Falls. And for the last 15 years, I've been maintaining that and building reports for our team to use. We run a team here in East Idaho of about 14 agents. We'll do this year probably 600 transactions with that group of people. And so we do a lot of business, but I love technology and I love data. So for the last year and a half, my focus has been on Area Pro. I'm the agent side of the perspective, and I have a team of engineers that do the heavy lifting on the coding. That's not me. So what you're looking at right here is a dashboard in Area Pro. This is Leslie's. I'm impersonating Leslie here for this. So what our goal was to create a tool that, like Leslie said, you could get to very quickly and within a few seconds answer the question, how is the market? What is happening in the market? And this term of hyper-local is really what we're all about, and real time. And like from a technical standpoint, the engineers get mad at me when I say real time, because it's real time means if you loaded a listing 5 seconds ago, it's now in Area Pro. We're downloading the data and updating Area Pro every night. And so it's always within 24 hours. And in our business, that's plenty current to have really valuable conversations. And when we talk about hyper-local, you can build whatever kind of area you want to identify a geographic boundary that you want to analyze. So I'm just going to jump into one right now so you can see the actual report if you haven't seen it yet. This is called the REMO, or the Real Estate Market Overview. And these are what we have determined as the most critical stats for any how's the market conversation. So, and we won't dive into all of them. Those are we do workshops every Wednesday that we love to see you join us on, and we can talk about scripting around these. What does 2.4 months supply of inventory mean, for example? Is that good? Is that bad? 89% pending ratio, that's insane. That's extremely high. And this is just jumping out at me on the screen. That tells me that this number is going to probably start going down even more because those pendings are going to work through to closings, and it's going to continue to be a strong seller's market in Springfield in the near future. So these are the stats that will navigate those conversations for you. And when we talk about hyper local, we can, in fact, let me stop impersonating Leslie and just show you this is my account. And I've got these areas that are set up in my test account. This is my county, and I've got 350 active listings. But if that's not local enough, I always like to start with that broad conversation to give them kind of a point of reference. And this matches what they're hearing in the news. It matches what other conversations, social media, because most of those conversations in our area are at the county level. But if I'm sitting at a kitchen table and I've got my iPad and I'm using Area Pro to walk them through the market, right after I talk about Bonneville County, I'm going to go two directions. First direction I'm going to go is right down to their price range. So I click here. Now I'm 500 to a million. I can click again, and now I'm looking at 800 to, look at what happens in Bonneville County when I get to 800 to 900. That's a completely different market than that same county across all price ranges, or from 4 to 450. There's 1.8 months supply. So we're swinging from an extreme seller's market to an extreme buyer's market in the same county, just driven on price. And I just figured that out in 6 seconds without running a single MLS search. And I've got it up on the screen in a very elegant, easy, fluid display that clients can follow with you. So I know you're familiar with this view. If you have this total view if you want. I don't recommend using this for clients, because when a client who doesn't study real estate every day sees a table of 140 data points, they kind of zone out. So I use this for myself a lot if I'm trying to compare price ranges. But you can see that pocket that I landed on, 800 to 900. That's this anomaly right now. For some reason, there's just not one house selling every month in that price range. And I just listed one in that price range on Monday, and I had this very conversation with them. And they wanted to list at 940, and or 840. We listed at 820 just because of that. And so and they answered that question. I didn't have to get them there. So I know I'm talking really fast because I got a lot to cover in a short amount of time. What I want to do is roll out a really cool feature for you all that we've had in Area Pro for a while, but like I said, it's been part of our premium Area Pro package. And that's Area Pro AI, if you've heard about it. We're just going to turn it on. This is what people are getting that are paying for the premium package. I just barely flipped the switch for your entire brokerage. So that's thanks to Chris and Katie and Leslie for providing that to you. And now I just broke Area Pro. There we go. So now you have a button. If you're used to using Area Pro, you've never seen this button before, and you now have it. You can click Ask AI. And I know you're using ChatGPT in every area of your business. I literally used it like right before this call. I had a client ask me a question, and I wrote an answer, and I realized my answer probably wasn't very nice. I ran that text through ChatGPT. I said, "Can you reframe this for me?" It did it in a brilliant way, and then I sent that, and thankfully I still have a friend in that client, and not because they asked me what I would consider a question that, anyway, never mind. That's a tangent. I hope you're using AI in every day in your business. This is really special version of AI because when you're talking to this, we're in the background, we're shipping it all of the data from that area. So for example, let's say we're looking at, let's go back to that Springfield. Right here, now I'm going to talk to AI about the data in Area Pro about Springfield. And ChatGPT has no idea what's happening in your MLS, so it can't talk specifically. If it does, if you asked it right now, what's happening in my market, it's going to try to answer, and it might do an okay job, but it's looking at old news articles, whatever it can find out there. It's not looking at the proprietary MLS data, but with Area Pro AI, it is. And I don't have time to demonstrate it. There's a lot of prompts right here that you can use just to play around. These are suggestions, or you can just type right here. You can say, "Can you please write me an email that helps get Dave and Nancy to drop their price 10% because they're way overpriced. And they're in this Springfield area. They've been on the market 95 days, and this is what they're asking." And now you get an email back that you can then go massage and make exactly what you want to send. And that step might take you 30 minutes without Area Pro AI and 4 minutes with it. So massive time savings there. When you're creating areas, we have a lot of materials for training, so I don't need to go into a lot of depth, but when you're creating areas, you go to Manage Area. And when Leslie talks about hyperlocal, she's not kidding. I can go, Leslie, give me the first zip code that comes to mind.
97124.
97124. Okay, I'm gonna, oh, whoops, wrong field. I'm going to zoom my 97124. I'm going to zoom my map over this area. Now you can create an area. You don't have to build areas like this. You can use, you can actually go to this option, like, well, I won't show you, I don't want to close this, but you can go to the MLS Fields option and you can actually search for that zip code. You can build an area based on a school boundary, a neighborhood boundary, a city, a zip code, a county. But if none of those happen to work and you just want to look at this, maybe you're going to an appointment tonight in this little pocket right here, and you just want to basically analyze what's happening here. And it doesn't match a zip code exactly, and it doesn't match a neighborhood exactly. And you want to go talk in Arbor Roses and visit with someone tonight. You can build this area. There's not a lot of data there, obviously, so you'd still want to have the county conversation or the city conversation where you've got a lot of data, but this is as local as you get. So we can call this map around Arbor Roses. Sorry, Leslie, I'm creating a area in your account right now that's not really going to be useful for you, but that's okay. Now you've got a data point. So after you talk about the zip code or the county, you can jump into the area and say, okay, when we go live, we're going to be competing against 9 other properties. And we know that 2.7 are selling every month. That's what we're up against, and that's our chance of selling. And then you move into your conversations from there. So that's a lot. I haven't even taken a breath. I'm about to pass out. What, Leslie, what am I leaving out? What else do you want me to touch on?
So I think in the last couple of minutes, here's the questions I think we're going to have.
Okay.
How come I haven't seen this? Like, why am I not getting these reports? So I'm going to start to answer those questions, Sean, so we can make sure that we get people access to these things.
Perfect. Okay.
So couple of things. Remember, this replaced your TMOs. So when we replace TMOs, which no longer exists in our network, we set this product up for you to cover 100% of the reports that you used to receive in TMOs, automatically set up for you to be delivered to your email every single week. You can then set up your own custom reports and preferences in your unique portal. However, the only way that you get it is if you accept the invite that we send you. So Sean, each person has their own portal. So
Yep. Yeah, and all of the agents can create areas. Everyone will see the 78 team areas that we built, and then everyone can build as many areas as they want under the personal areas. And right now we have 224 of the 600 seats filled. So we got a lot of agents that are not taking advantage of something that's absolutely free and provided to them.
Awesome. So we will send out invites, contact your ASC, MCTT, your front desk person, and each of our market centers. We will make sure you get set up. Those cool new features and just the basics, Sean, they can join your Wednesday calls to learn more about how to utilize this product at a higher level, correct?
Yep, those are 12:30 Pacific time every Wednesday, and we record them all. I know that's right during your lunch hour and you're out networking and doing business lunches. So we record all of them and we post them at areapro.com/support. And then you can see the Wednesday workshops and you can look at them by topic. So you can find one that's like introduction to Area Pro and we go over the basics, or you can find one that's all about the AI or all about building new areas, or what about scripts and how do we talk about data inside. So they're just workshops and we kind of hit on different topics each Wednesday.
I love it. Now they can customize their reports, but they can also print out like the PDF version, because these are what they should be taking into what Chris said is right. We need to use language that creates certainty. And so they can print out these PDFs. And
yep. And we just rolled out a new feature with that, Leslie, where you can basically customize whatever you want to save to PDF. So that's new as well.
I love that.
Also, one other thing, sorry to cut you off, Leslie, they can add their photo now too. See, we put your name up top, that's new. So now we put the brokerage and the team branding down at the bottom, and we let agents kind of have this top space. So everyone can go into settings, agent branding, and Leslie, you'll be the first one to do this. Go in and then upload your profile picture, and then it will show up in the report in the top right by your name and email address.
Oh my gosh, so many new things. Okay, so in summary, you guys, I'm glad we recorded this because so many new features. Here's what I'm going to say is, one, if you want the slides that Chris presented today, don't worry, they will be in the wrap-up email. For those of you who needed a recap of all the cool new features of Area Pro, don't worry, we are going to send out the recording and you will have it. For those of you who are wondering where your invite is, please reach out to your local leadership team. We will make sure we resend it so that you then accept the invite and can start utilizing this tool at the highest level. And that brings us to the top of the hour. Hopefully you guys got some value, some nuggets, and some takeaways from today. Oh, we have one last thing, which is our big announcement. Adriana put it up on the screen. We are going to do our declare and share for our next SOI, you guys. We have booked the incredible Rebecca Del Pozo, who for many of you guys know, she is a top teacher, coach in KWRI. She is the incredible instructor who did our business planning last year to help our agents go into 2025. And she has just released a brand new book. So she is going to be our speaker, our special guest for June. So make sure you have the SOI for June on your schedule because this is a do not miss. She's going to give us kind of like our mid-year motivation and talk about like all the cool things she's accomplished and release her new book. So Sean, thank you so much for all the information. Thank you guys for joining
Absolutely.
us and look forward to seeing you guys all soon.
Thanks for having me.